Welcome to Retirement Decoded with your host, Scott Tucker, where we break down the complexities of retirement planning to give you clear, actionable advice. Whether you're just starting out or getting ready to retire, Scott's here to help you make informed decisions and secure your financial future. Tune in each week as we simplify the process and decode the path to a stress-free retirement. Now, here's your host, Scott Tucker.
Well, welcome back to Retirement Decoded with Scott Tucker. I'm your host, Scott Tucker. Welcome back to the podcast. My trusty co-host, as almost all the time, is Associate Advisor Andre Hootie. Say hello, Andre Hootie.
Hello, Andre Hootie.
Andre Hootie, for folks new to the program, we are broadcasting from the Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. studios, I-90 in Cumberland neck of the woods in Chicago, Illinois. We are near O'Hare International Airport. We're on Higgins Road, and Park Ridge is across the street. Now, Andre, even though we're in Chicago, we can help listeners all across the fruited plain, all throughout the United States.
Yes, we can.
In the territories, even.
Yeah, even all the territories.
Hey, Andre, can you do all the phone appointments we get from this for the folks who live in Guam?
Are they in a different time zone?
They're on the other side of the world, Andre.
I mean, is it like a whole 12 hours? Is it only 6?
Andre, they're not on Central Time.
That's okay as long as it's not too big of a spread between the times.
Can you?
I'll do it.
They want to talk to you at midnight Central.
Do I get the next day off?
They want to talk to you at midnight Central. So anyway, sometimes Andre plays dumb for the sake of the program. You know where Guam is.
I do know where Guam is, and no, I'm not doing those phone calls. I like sleeping.
We're going to take a question from Georgine today from the podcast listener mailbag, all about her financial planning for retirement. And if you want to get your questions answered and your answers questioned, you can just go to tuckerretirement.com. Our phone calendar is available at tuckerretirement.com, and you can click and pick yourself. You don't pick yourself, Andre. You can click and pick a time and book yourself. That's what you can do. Self-serve, Andre.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. So even the do-it-yourselfers, they can do it themselves, getting on our phone calendar.
It's their favorite thing to do.
Is to do it themselves. So you can go to tuckerretirement.com and click and pick a time on the phone calendar. We'll spend 15 minutes for free with you over the telephone in the coming week, even if you're in Guam. Andre will just not sleep for a couple of days.
It's okay.
So this question comes to us from Georgine. Georgine says, Scott, Andre, we recently purchased our forever home, and we're fortunate to be able to pay cash. Now the question is, how best to protect this asset? I'll pause as we go through. This is one of those 5-sentence questions, Andre. It's a statement, a question, and a statement, and a question. So Georgine and her spouse recently purchased their forever home. Andre, do you ever, I hear this all the time that folks, they finally got their forever home. How often is the home you think your forever home really your forever home?
I mean, I actually didn't hear about that until recently. I didn't really realize that that's what people call their house, like forever home.
Is this Georgine, I refuse to move, I'm going to die here house?
That's what it sounds like.
My forever home.
Yeah, I just, how do you know it will be there forever? I mean, sure, maybe the next 10 years, that's what your plan.
I believe the statistic, I don't have it in front of me right now. I think the stat is the average American moves every 7 years.
Yeah, and especially in retirement.
And then we buy forever homes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be. Natalie and I live in Mount Prospect, Illinois. That's a northwest Chicago suburb. And we've been there about 3 years now. And I would say that'd be our forever home, although it's a 2-story colonial. And so eventually, I'm in my early 50s. Eventually, Andre, I'm going to have to get one of those chair things that go up and down the stairs. All the bedrooms are upstairs.
That's going to be tough to get up and down.
A lot of our neighbors have, on our street in Mount Prospect, like half our neighbors, it is their forever home. And some of the older folks, like the lady across the street, they do have the little chair gizmo.
Okay, well, by the time you need it, there's going to be robots to just pick you up and carry you up and down.
I wanted to put in a fireman's pole.
I mean, hey,
just for no reason.
Well, that's quick, right?
It's quick. You just got to watch you don't step on it in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. Well, just have a little trap door or something.
Trap door, that could be a problem too, Andre.
Oh, I guess.
And shoots and ladders. Georgine, we recently purchased our forever home, and we were fortunate enough to be able to pay cash. Now, paying cash for a house, I think, Georgine, is terrific. Andre, you got that degree from that fancy Loyola University of Chicago, that finance degree.
Yep.
And so if I pay cash for a house, what do they call that? I have has a what kind of cost?
It has a what kind of cost? You stumped me there.
I'm making an imaginary fill in the blank. It's not written, so it's harder to answer.
Okay. I mean, it's
If I have cash instead of investing it, I have cash and I buy a house with it. I've incurred what kind of cost? There's a blank
sunk cost.
No, there's a blank there. It doesn't work. It doesn't work verbally. An opportunity cost.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, huh? It's back to Finance 101 for me, I guess.
If you saw it in writing, if I get out the whiteboard, Andre, the whiteboard doesn't work on the, because I'm saying what kind of cost. I know it doesn't really make sense. So you don't see the blank. You don't understand what I'm trying to ask you. Because I know you know what opportunity cost is. So, Andre, if I pay cash for a house, I have opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
What else could I have done with that cash?
You could have invested it.
Now, I'm not a big, I don't agree with everything Dave Ramsey says, but I will say I'll argue against myself what I just said. Of course, we have to acknowledge you do have an opportunity cost. Maybe you invested that money and maybe you got 4 or 5% in a certificate of deposit. Maybe you got 9 or 10% in the market, if the market went your way anyway. Dave Ramsey always says the market goes up 12% a year no matter what. I haven't seen that happen yet, Andre.
Yeah, no, not year after year. I mean, maybe over some period of time, if it goes up, average. But
if it goes up 12%, goes down 6% the next year, you just spent 2 years making 6%. You made 3% a year,
right?
Just as a hypothetical. Yeah. So, Georgine says we recently purchased our forever home, ? And we're fortunate enough to be able to pay cash. And as I just described, Andre, Georgine and her spouse are incurring an opportunity cost. Mm-hmm. Actually, she didn't say if it's her spouse or not. Maybe she's just shacked up to living in sin, Andre. What do you think?
Hey, it's possible. It makes financial sense.
I should get Aunt Peg on line one. She's not going to like this.
No, she's not.
Living in sin. Okay, here it goes. Now, the question is, how best to protect this asset? Well, one thing, Andre, how would you protect a home?
Well, there's a few ways, but the easiest one, and we're not attorneys, but trust is.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to super basics. So, what you could do actually, when you buy a house for cash, what step might you miss?
What step might you miss?
When you buy a house with a mortgage, what do they make you do?
Well, you need insurance for your house.
Yeah, if you get a house with a mortgage, they make you get insurance.
Oh, yeah, well, you should have insurance even if you don't have a mortgage.
I told you we were going back to basics because she just asked what's the best way to protect the asset. I'm thinking of a few things. When people buy a house for cash, sometimes they overlook a home inspection. Sometimes they might even overlook a home appraisal. They might overlook homeowners insurance, because nobody's going to make you buy homeowners insurance if you're buying with cash. They might not check the floodplain, and they might not buy flood insurance. And rule number 1, don't buy a house in the floodplain. Although there are houses in floodplains. People buy them all the time. Yeah, and how do they buy them? With cash, usually.
Well, it comes with a swimming pool. How can you not?
It's a riverfront property. But yeah, then you were even a couple steps ahead of me there, and you were talking about a trust, and let's come back to that in a moment. Another way, Georgine, to protect your asset, you've got to. Oh, here's the problem, Andre. You know this. Georgine and whoever she shacked up with, or married to, or civilly united, Georgine and her spouse/non-spouse. It's public record that Georgine has the house in her own name.
Mm-hmm. And that can cause problems.
So it's also your most visible asset. Your asset, like we're in Crook County, Illinois, actually Cook County. Here locally we call it Crook County, Illinois. And as in most counties, if not all, it's publicly listed who the owners of properties are. And so if Georgine and her spouse or shacked up partner, super lover, if they are, and maybe they're just cozy, maybe they're just cuddling,
maybe.
But Georgina and her spouse will say it's public record they own the house in their own names as individuals. It's also public record. What else is public record, Andre? They own the house, and then what else?
Whether they have a mortgage or not.
They have no mortgage.
Yeah, it's
public record, Georgine, that you bought your forever house. That you paid cash because there's no mortgage recorded, and there still is no mortgage recorded, and so it's a free and clear house. Mm-hmm. And if it's your forever house, we have folks that have all kinds of different values of houses and what they would think is a forever house. Andre, let's say it's a $500,000 to $1 million house, and it was bought with cash. There's no mortgage against it, and it's in Georgine's name. That's a lawsuit target.
Oh yeah. If I'm an ambulance chaser, let's call it, and the first thing I'm doing is looking for that house.
The slanders of Andre Hootie are not the opinions of Scott Tucker Solutions Inc. No, so there are attorneys that they make a living, looking up assets and seeing if there are liens against them and things like that. So Georgine, with a paid off house, I'm happy with that. Nobody wants a mortgage in retirement, I don't think. And so a couple of things, like we said, home inspection, home appraisal, check the floodplain. And it's maybe too late for all that. Have homeowners insurance, have flood insurance if needed. Hopefully you don't need that. Hopefully you don't buy a house in a floodplain. But then we said, so we made sure we had the homeowners insurance. What you can do quick and easy, Georgine, is, and maybe you've already done this, you can have a personal liability umbrella. So maybe Georgine and her spouse / non-spouse / undercover lover, maybe they're worth about a forever house paid in cash and then some other investments. Maybe they're worth, we'll just say $2 million. Could be more, could be less, whatever. Say they're worth $2 million net worth. They probably ought to have a personal liability umbrella for $2 million.
Yeah, math adds up.
And it needs to cover both of you. And then what you do, you get that from your home and auto person. Hopefully you use a independent insurance broker, not a captive agent. A captive agent would be somebody whose insurance company advertises on TV during the Super Bowl with a quarterback and a country music star. Mm-hmm. That's expensive, more expensive insurance, and that's more limited just to one carrier. So an agent that works for one of those companies, they can only represent that one company. What Natalie and I do, and I've done for a quarter century, Andre, because I'm really old now. For a quarter century, I have used an independent insurance broker out of Downers Grove, Illinois. And what they do is they shop around for you.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
I actually have the property and casualty licenses in Illinois where I could go hunting around for my own home and auto and all this stuff. I'm not going to do it.
You don't have the time to do that anymore.
No, and I'm not the expert at it. Actually, a lot of these things are more complicated than they seem.
Yeah.
So Georgine, a personal liability umbrella, and it's going to cost you a couple $100 a year, but it's well worth it. So Georgine, let's say you and your spouse / partner / undercover lover, your co-owner, let's say you own, well, you know what? That's another thing, Andre. I hope you're legally married or civilly united in Illinois. I hope you're, or whatever you are. Because, Andre, what happens? I know you're married, Andre. Now, what happens if you and Lauren were just dating, say even engaged, say you bought a house together, and say if it didn't work out? I know it did work out. I know you'll be together forever. That's what she told me. It sounded like when she said that she would be with you forever, Andre, it sounded like a threat. Is it a threat or a promise? Tell me, that's the most part?
I think it's both.
It depends on how your behavior is. So say if you and Lauren, back when you guys were engaged, if you bought a house together, if it didn't work out, you have no partnership documents.
No. How do you split that then?
You now have a house with your ex-girlfriend.
That sounds
really fun. That sounds fun. Hey, at least Georgine and her partner / undercover lover, hey, they have a paid off house. So hopefully, Georgine, you got married or civilly united. We do have nationwide now. I don't know if Georgine's straight, gay, or whatever else, but in Illinois, we got probably about 10 years or 5 years before we got federally, the Supreme Court at one point, I think it was 2015-ish, the Supreme Court said gay marriage was legal. Before that, in Illinois, they came up with a kind of a compromise where it was a civil union, and anybody could get civilly united, same sex, opposite sex, whatever. And so anyway, Georgine, hopefully you're either married or civilly united or wherever the case is in your state. You didn't say what state you're in. And because if it doesn't work out, then you have to have, if you don't get married, you know what you got to do, Andre? You have to form like an LLC or something like that. Mm-hmm. So you have partnership agreements. Yeah,
well, you have to have some way to split it. Otherwise, the courts are going to decide for you.
But Andre, it's Georgine's think so negatively, right? So I like the personal liability umbrella. I like the trust. Now, coming back finally to what Andre said 5 minutes ago, in Illinois, revocable living trust. Mm-hmm. Revocable means we can change. We can get rid of it. We can revoke it.
Yeah, and we can make changes as needed.
Yeah, and it's a revocable living trust. We can make changes as needed. Let's say Andre's married. Now we do help same-sex couples, but let's say Georgine is married to a gentleman. Just that's more common, even nowadays, right? It's more common. And then we have so let's say Georgine and her husband. They can be the trustees while they're living, meaning they can amend the trust and that, or they can revoke the trust as they're living. What we would do, I guess this is a long way to say this, we would retitle the attorney that we work with a couple law firms, or your attorney, Georgine. I don't care what attorney you work with, so long as they're thorough and they follow through. The attorney would retitle your house into the name of your trust, so your trust would own your house, not you. Mm-hmm. And of course, as Andre, as you know, Georgine and her, let's say, theoretical husband in this question, they would still own the house. They'd own the house through the trust. Really, they control the trust. The trust is to benefit them, but the trust owns the house. They haven't really lost control. Like people think they lose control.
Yeah,
they've just kind of given it a corporate veil, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
It might be a way to say it.
Separates you for a little bit from your assets in a way where you get that added protection that because that's what the trust really is intended to do. It's to protect your assets.
So if Georgine and her theoretical husband will say, if they somehow harm someone and there was a civil lawsuit filed against them, the house is no longer in their possession. It's in the possession of the trust. It's the trust property, not Georgine's property.
Exactly. The trust, for all intents and purposes, to kind of simplify this and for the listener, it's its own person. It's its own entity. It exists on its own, away from the people that created it. And
the trust wouldn't ever harm anyone, so the trust couldn't be liable for a civil lawsuit. Now, Georgine, why you have to have this before you need it? You don't buy an umbrella in a rainstorm, right? In Illinois, for instance, there's a thing called the Fraudulent Transfers Act, something like that. I had an attorney one time to explain it to me, and I can't remember now. It's Illinois Fraudulent Transfers Act. You can't wait until you're getting sued to then transfer the property into trust, because that would be a fraudulent transfer.
Yep, yeah.
You can't, it's sort of like, well, this is this is some Latin and some memories from 8th grade or something. It's like ex post facto. So like we have in this country where you can't go down the street when the speed limit said 35 and you went 35, and they come behind you and they change the limit the next day and they say, well, it's 25, and they try to write you a ticket for the day before.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Didn't make any sense.
I picked that, I got that.
Yeah, so if you are sued, if there's a tort against you, a civil lawsuit, it's too late then to go move your assets into trust, because a judge would undo that. Sorry to be so down in the dumps about your forever house, Georgine, but you asked. So Georgine says, we recently purchased our forever home, and we were fortunate to be able to pay cash. We talked about opportunity cost. In the Dave Ramsey comment I was making earlier, Dave Ramsey says it a great way. I'm not in favor of mortgages, especially going into retirement, but Dave Ramsey has a great way of saying it. People will say, hey, maybe I have a $500,000 house. Maybe I ought to borrow like $400,000, and they could go and invest that in a non-qualified investment account. Then I could go on margin. I could borrow another $400,000 against that. I could have $800,000 in the stock market.
You could.
But yeah, if the market then falls by half, you lose the whole thing, and you owe $400,000 on a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get over our skis that way. So paying cash, we did mention opportunity cost, but at the same time, I'm not saying that. He'll say it sometimes, like, how about if you turned it around backwards? If you had a paid off $500,000 house, would you go borrow $400,000 to invest it? I don't know if that makes sense to folks, but just I'm not really in favor of. A lot of folks now say, well, mortgage rates aren't too bad. Why don't you take a mortgage and then you go try to outperform that in the market? Sometimes markets go down,
Yeah.
So how to protect the asset? We talked about all of that. Here she finally says, of course we have homeowners insurance. There you go. Is there anything else we should do to make sure we are protected? Yep. Personal liability umbrella, revocable living trust, depending on what state you're in. Now, Andre, we don't have law licenses. We're not licensed as attorneys, and so we're not giving legal advice.
Exactly. We're just knowledgeable enough as to the things that work for many people, and so it's something for you to go research.
Yep. We're not giving legal advice. We're not giving illegal advice. Right, Andre?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
We don't want to give you illegal advice. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. We have a new episode every week, so go ahead and subscribe. Like, share, do whatever. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Where else are we, Andre? We're all over the place.
On iHeart.
Yep, we're on a bunch of places.
I'm forgetting the rest. There's too many. And so go ahead and like, subscribe, share, whatever. We publish a new episode every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Central Time. Andre gets up at 4 a.m. to do that. Don't you, Andre? Mm-hmm. Yep, I do my research.
No, we have Jerry schedule it. Yeah. Oh, you got to get up early tomorrow. Yeah. I can't stay up watch any sports or anything on a Sunday night because I got to get up at 4 a.m. to publish the podcast at 5 a.m.
That'd be rough.
Yeah. Nowadays, Andre, they have the software. You just schedule it.
Yeah, you just schedule it. Wow. Times are changing.
Wowzer. If you'd like to get your own questions answered, your answers question, we'll spend 15 minutes for free with you over the telephone in the coming week. Just go to tuckerretirement.com. There may be a link down below in the description if we remember to put it there, or just go to tuckerretirement.com. There's a phone calendar there, and you can schedule yourself right there. We don't charge anything for that. It even tells you, it'll even set itself to whatever time zone you're in. So you don't have to do all kinds of weird time zone conversions. We use a Calendly page. It's called for that. So we look forward to talking to you. You had another perfectly good 20 minutes listening to the ramblings of a short, bald man, namely yours truly, Scott Tucker. It's the Retirement Decoded podcast with Scott Tucker and Andre Hootie, and we will talk to you on the next podcast.
Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. has a strategic partnership with tax professionals and attorneys who can provide tax and or legal advice. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions. A Roth conversion is a taxable event and may have several tax-related consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. The views and opinions herein are those of Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of AE Wealth Management, LLC. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this podcast shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc.